The first time Scavenger's Reign was brought to my attention, I didn't really know what to expect. There wasn't even that much explanation that went behind the suggestion either besides, trust me bro. But considering the fact that it was mentioned in the same conversation as some other heavy hitters such as Cyberpunk Edgerunners, I figured it would be at least worth a try. But with the release of some other shows that demanded my attention at the time, like the Netflix Avatar series, which I shit on almost relentlessly, and the Amazon Fallout series, which I glazed to no end, I didn't really have that much time, I thought. With the addition of what I think I can call an audience now, by the way, thank all 76 of you guys for subscribing. It really does mean a lot. I decided to let you guys pick what I'd be making a video on next, and to my surprise, despite the fact that that list consisted of both Arcane and Blue Eye Samurai, two extremely good shows I intend to make videos on at some point, Scavenger's Reign completely blew away the competition. From that moment forward, I knew I couldn't put it off any longer, and I have to say, after watching the entire show, I get it now, but damn, some of y'all are some freaky Baba Booey. Cause what is this?
Freaky frog! You a freaky frog!
But seriously, I'm sorry it took me so long, Scavenger's Reign. Shit, I was not familiar with your game. While doing research for this video, I was pretty disappointed to find out that HBO had canceled the show. And after being shipped off to Netflix, it has yet to be greenlit for a season 2. And I gotta say again, that's incredibly disappointing because they really have something special here. I know Rotten Tomatoes should never be looked at as some kind of end-all be-all, but 100% under any circumstances should never be taken lightly. The show even got an Emmy nomination recently, which should be a pretty clear-cut indicator that you'd be fumbling a legendary bag just because of bad management. Get your shit together, Netflix. Those accolades should speak for themselves, you stupid motherfuckers. Joseph Bennett and Charles Hutner? I'm sorry, I know I butchered the hell out of your name, but they both got their big break by creating the 2016 short film Scavengers, which features a pair of humans adapting to a strange new planet by using some of its native creatures as useful tools. It was clearly good enough to have Toonami pick it up and premiere the movie on December 24th, 2016. Joe and Charles decided to step it up several notches by partnering with Titmouse Studios and Green Streak Pictures, and as one cohesive unit, they put together what is easily one of the best shows of 2023 in my opinion. Much like its predecessor, which heavily focused on the planet with its strange environments and even stranger creatures, Scavenger's Reign does that and then some, to the point where I'd go so far as to say the planet is the main character of what can best be described as an experience. The creators even mentioned in an interview that they were inspired by movies like Nausicaa and Solaris, and while I don't know shit about Solaris, besides the fact that it heavily influenced Xenogears, something that I regard as one of the most flawed yet one of the best games ever made, I grew up on Studio Ghibli movies and I loved Nausicaa, so I can definitely see its influence all over Scavenger's Reign. The show follows the 5 survivors of an interstellar cargo ship called the Demeter 227 after being forced to make an emergency ejection due to issues that we'll discuss more later in the video. For now, we'll just call it a critical failure. After spending months separated on the planet Vesta with no help in sight from their corporate overlords, resourceful members of the crew managed to signal the heavily damaged Demeter out from orbit and down to the ground. With the ship a little further within reach, there's finally a real chance to make it back home, but that's only if the crew can make it there alive. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it as it helps tell the algorithm overlords that my videos are worth watching. And subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this one and whatever the hell else I decide to put out in the future. Don't forget to comment down below and tell me what you thought about the show and what stuck out to you the most or resonated with you. You know the drill by now. You guys have had plenty of time to watch Scavenger's Reign, so from this point forward, get ready because there's spoilers ahead. If you do really want to avoid them, I suggest skipping to this timestamp somewhere on the screen over here. But with that being said, on to the video. Scavenger's Reign quickly places you in the middle of an increasingly dire situation. From the jump, its opening gives you a clear picture that our main characters are pretty much fucked beyond belief. Early on, one of said main characters, Ursula, marks off yet another day out the months that she's been stranded on Vesta and far from home. This is a future where humanity has conquered space travel, but in less of a Star Wars kind of way and more like a if Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk somehow developed interstellar fast travel kind of way. The Demeter crew is experienced, but adjusting to this very hostile planet will require much more than anyone is truly prepared for. Even then, they've somewhat adapted by using some of the creatures in the ecosystem ecosystem surrounding their space pods in resourceful ways, showing some of the earliest elements that went behind the creation of Scavenger's Reign. Ursula and Sam, another member of the crew, try to build a device capable of signaling the Demeter down to the planet and further within reach. We're shown components of these creatures that generate light or simulate huge power cords in ways that feel unique to this planet alone. There are so many other examples of how Vesta's wildlife can be used too, ranging from creatures that can be used as oxygen masks to phallic propellers that let you glide through the air like you're playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or some shit. I'm not saying something like this hasn't been done before, but it certainly feels new to me. At times, watching Scavenger's Reign feels like watching a nature documentary about an alien planet, completely validating the idea that the creators prepared for this production in part by watching nature documentaries. There are times where Scavenger's Reign gives you a moment to appreciate some of its wildlife, showing you this planet has been around long before the crew arrived and will be around long after too. There are animals that quite literally cook their prey with heat generating appendages and umbrella-like plants that discharge electromagnetic waves. You take all that and top it off with a story that cuts straight through the middle, not by overtaking the planet and its nature, but like a foreign entity in an environment that at times is doing everything possible to get rid of it. Dangerous creatures reside around every corner of planet Vesta. There's a creative assortment of fictional wildlife designed to unalive and likely infect you with some kind of parasite. I mean, where do I even start? Exhibit A. There's this one part in the first episode where Azi Levi, another member of the Demeter, and her robot assistant are constantly wary of these Marjorie Taylor Greene looking motherfuckers lurking around their makeshift camp.
If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Azi was doing some routine predator control when her thought it was a good idea to let her guard down. She would have been cooked if it wasn't for Levi standing by with the supersonic blicky ready for her to get a step out of line. Too bad these MTGs were sore losers who decided to spin the block and get their lick back. These absolute units stand at maybe more than 20 feet tall at times, and they travel in packs. And oh yeah, I almost forgot, they can regenerate. Levi was getting jumped like those real life robots that most definitely won't take over the world someday. Wink wink. Not only are these MTGs much bigger and stronger than you, but they do not give you the faith of a one-on-one, making them extremely dangerous. Exhibit B. Imagine having a nice leisurely stroll in the forest, minding your own goddamn business, only to get bitten by something. And then the you from Timu comes to boom you and all your people in your sleep. That's the type of seemingly harmless monstrosity cosplaying as Flora that lurks on the planet Vesta. This plant extracts your blood using one of its hentai tentacles, grows its own notably fleshy version of you while you die slowly, just for that creature to track you down, bury you right before your Michael Jackson concert, and hunt all your partners down for an acidic squad wipe, leading to it effectively reproducing in the most violent way it can think of, and running that play right back again. That's the type of L that can turn you into an S-tier hater when you gotta spectate the match in the afterlife. I'd be in them messages telling them about how they ain't never gonna be in life. Oh, and you get no bitch. Oh, and I can pull 100K out the bank. Can you? Exhibit C. I'm sure there isn't a nigga who hates the planet Vesta more than our good friend Charlie. The first thing this poor bastard saw when he came out of his cryogenic sleep with a pounding headache were highly dangerous creatures licking their chops waiting for him to step out so they can f his shit up. Having no choice but to wander away from the ship in search of a way to survive, he gets his head fucked up by an aquatic face hugger while trying to get a drink of water, has his blood from the horrific new injury on his head sucked on by mosquitoes from the lowest level of hell, and finally unalived moments after finding the only person nearby who had a chance of helping him survive. You just gotta shake your head and pour one out for the boy, because that is one sad, horrible way to die. Hey, ball up top, bruh. I haven't even mentioned the parasitic Cthulhu that lurks in the shadows as well, but for now, just know there's no shortage of things that would give you an opportunity to get your ankles snatched by God himself. I know that I just spent the last however long letting you guys know how awful the planet Vesta can be, but in that same vein, man, some parts of this world are almost breathtaking enough to justify it. Almost. fact. Nothing about this world makes sense in the way that we as humans know it. For every storm so deadly that it carries lead-like debris that embeds itself in your skin, growing rapidly and killing you almost as fast, there are these harmless insects that give you a mini light show with their bioluminescent wings. A feature even more beautiful when it's being done by a swarm of them. There's these growing mycelium things that seem to quote-unquote close the energy cycle of the ecosystem by decomposing organic matter and recycling it into beneficial compounds for the soil, punctuating even death with a sight worthy of pause. While making their way to the Demeter, Azi and Levi are seemingly almost trampled by a stampede of creatures that quote-unquote croak to the wind, shifting them on their path in near unison. We're given a bird's eye view of this spectacle as Azi is told to lighten her grip on her bike and follow the sway of the herd, allowing her to breathe for a moment, appreciating the beauty Vesta has to offer. Ursula and Sam even get their opportunity to smell the symbiotic roses when they come across a massive wall that appears to block their path to the Demeter. After observing the way another creature made its way through using some kind of colorful shell, they're able to witness what can only be described as the animators flexing on us mere mortals. Somewhere in the middle of this wall, we find out that it's really just one organism, and Ursula serves as an audience to what appears to be its cycle of rejuvenation. Honestly, it's a little lengthy, but you'll just have to see for yourself. Look, I'm a firm believer that the best way to write a story is through its character. The Demeter survivors spend a lot of time going through hell. They suffer, and I mean really suffer. And if we as an audience don't give a single f to spare for any of them, their plight wouldn't really hit as hard. Character writing can make or break an entire show or a movie, and in my opinion, Scavenger's Reign does this effectively, while still reminding you that the real main character is the planet Vesta. This show explores each of the survivors' characters by pairing them up. Azi with Levi, Ursula with Sam, and Kamen with himself, because he's a bitch ass nigga. From the moment we're introduced to Ursula and Sam, as I mentioned before, we're shown, not told, that they've been on the planet Vesta for months, completely abandoned by the company that they work for. To their credit, they figured things out a little. We see Sam quite literally rearranging this space cow's guts to produce a viable light source necessary for their mission to get the fuck off this planet. Look, they were locked in for real, because I'm sorry, but me personally, I couldn't take that level of existential crisis and despair. A nigga like me would have been more like Kamen. But more on that shit stain later. These two are highly capable employees of an interstellar cargo company, so while they've never been stranded on a planet before, they're not new to adapting to new environments. It helps that Ursula and Sam complement each other quite well, considering it doesn't appear that they've had more than a working relationship before ending up in this situation. Ursula is the softer, more nurturing one, while Sam is a bit more stoic and stern. Their dichotomy permeates throughout their entire journey to the Demeter, but I'll talk about only a couple instances of this for now. The first is how each of them feels about Kamen, the definitive reason they're in this position in the first fucking place. Sam hates him, which is that bitch that will go kick rocks in hell on some hater shit for real, except it's completely justified. On the other hand, Ursula's a bit more empathetic towards Kamen, suggesting to Sam that he should have heard Kamen out, treating him more like a human being. Look, I don't agree. More on this later, but Kamen was acting like a baba booey. Yeah, but I mean, look, I get it, I guess. Another example would be when they were stuck in the middle of that deadly storm that I'd mentioned earlier and desperately in need of shelter. Sam wanted to go by some nearby cliffs, something rigid and unmoving. Ursula felt like they'd be safer hiding inside these giant, harmless jellyfish-like things, making an effort to shield their young from the storm, something softer and more nurturing. This ended up almost getting them killed due to some local parasites that happened to feed on those creatures' babies. Shit was looking real peak for a moment, considering those parasites were fucking huge and completely incapacitated both of them in a heartbeat. But second best girl Ursula wasn't fucking around either. She really locked in and said, I'm like that for real. Don't play with me like I'm a
Baba Booey.
Ursula time came around, so she took her knife and tore that
Baba Booey
apart like she didn't know what came over her. Realistically, something else capable of killing them twice over would have been lurking in those cliffs, so it's not like Ursula made the wrong choice in my opinion, but this just highlights the difference in how they think. In my opinion, the best pairing in Scavenger's Reign is easily Azi and Levi, and it's between a woman and a fucking robot. Guess what? Do you remember when I said Ursula was the second best girl? Well, that's because the real best girl and the MVP of the season is Levi, hands down. And if you just let me cook for a moment, I can tell you why. Look, man, you can't be giving out edge-ups this clean without me saluting you. That is not as common as you think, because some of y'all barbers be owing you money after your haircuts. That's all I'm saying. The dynamic explored between Azi and Levi is such an interesting one. On one end, you have Azi, a reserved woman who likes to keep to herself for the most part. It's clear that she keeps a rigid wall up, and it takes a lot for it to come down. She had her little situationship with this girl Mia from the Demeter, who was expressing gratitude for the box they likely just exchanged together, and wanted to invite her out with the homies for her shot at round 2. Azi gave this woman a nonchalant shoulder real quick, said, nah, we're keeping this professional. Might as well shaking her goddamn hand at that point. On the other end, you have Levi, one of many robots designed to help the Demeter's crew members. I'm sure the only reason Azi got along with Levi so well in the first place was because she's a robot. No feelings, no stress. The two of them managed to survive the months stranded on the planet by setting up a farm and a perimeter for safety. But that slowly began to change once Levi made contact with one of those strange mycelium I mentioned earlier, contaminating her circuitry with the strange goo. After this, Levi develops curiosity, burying a wrench in the soil to see if it would grow. After getting their escape pod completely destroyed by that superstorm and being alerted to the Demeters landing on the planet, they're forced to relocate, and Levi's character development shifts into maximum overdrive, where Azi can be a bit self-centered, which is understandable to an extent considering she's the only human being in sight, trying to get off this seemingly godforsaken planet. Levi is shown to be the more empathetic and warm one. In fact, she began caring for the wildlife, growing food for them in a nearby clearing just to see what would happen. When Azi asked why she would grow food harmful to humans, Levi had to check her ass, telling her, damn bitch, maybe this shit wasn't for you. It's Levi who takes a moment to pause, observing the beauty of a swarm of bioluminescent insects, taking a picture for the gram so she could show the girls back home. It's Levi who notices the sway of the herd that seemingly almost trampled them, helping them survive by adapting to the situation. She starts to develop feelings, reacting to when Azi touches her and not being too happy when Azi even shuts her down for maintenance. While Azi sees what's happening as some kind of malfunctioning, the world around Levi is starting to become more real, and she wants to learn everything about it. She truly begins to experience life. You know you got some issues to work out when your robot is behaving like more of a human being than you are. Fortunately, Azi begins to wise up before it's too late, realizing that she should put some respect on Big Levi's name, especially considering the fact that she would have been dead 3 times over if it wasn't for her supposedly about to crash out. She starts to consider how Levi feels, treating her like a real person, and respecting the fact that she can make her own decisions and appreciating the fact that she doesn't have to be alone anymore. She finally has a real person to talk to, sort of. Azi begins to understand that they're truly in this together, leading Azi to experience real sadness and rage when she's eventually ripped apart by... We finally made it to this piece of shit. I've been waiting to go in on this little nigga all throughout the writing of this script. This Discord moderating tier 1 Pokemon subscribing shell of a bitch is easily the worst person in the show. But walk with me for a moment. Let me tell you exactly why he's one of the best written and most fleshed out characters in Scavenger's Reign. While everyone else who survived the catastrophe of the Demeter was lucky enough to be paired with someone else, Kamen got exactly what he deserved, and spent months stuck in his escape pod, lodged in some tree far too high for him to jump from. He was powerless against his fate, and all he could do was scream and shout in frustration. It's not until he has a chance encounter with a creature called a Hollow, a telekinetic being that hypnotizes other animals to retrieve food for itself, that he's able to make his way out into the planet Vesta. This Hollow in particular is quite unique, because strangely enough, it has a lot in common with Kamen. it's also been made to feel small and powerless by its larger, more capable counterparts. Pathetic people love feeding off of someone they deem weaker than themselves, so it takes pity on Kamen, enticing him over time with images of what he desires most, leading to his eventual escape from the escape pod, whatever, you get the point. Their journey together serves as a vehicle into Kamen's mind, unraveling the events that led him to this point. We learned that Kamen was in a relationship with a woman named Fiona, the robotics expert behind the maintenance and the voice of the Levis, and more woman than a bitch-ass nigga like Kamen could ever hope to handle or deserve. Their relationship has been continuously strained by his feelings of inadequacy, and we get to see flashbacks of Fiona's constant doting over him and confusion about his deteriorating behavior. When Kamen finally lands his big boy job with the Demeter 227, he tries to convince Fiona that their lives aren't good enough and that this would be good for them, when she clearly disagrees. Unfortunately, he succeeds, marking the beginning of the end for their relationship. The Hollow makes him face his past, which at times is more than Kamen can handle, in a matter that I feel is a fantastic depiction of a poisonous and codependent relationship, all while forcing him to be its hunter-gatherer, which Kamen does in an increasingly violent and malevolent fashion. It begins to spiral out of control the moment Kamen kills the bigger Hollow that little bro that nigga earlier, leading to the main Hollow developing an appetite for flesh, not just fruits and nuts. Joseph Bennett, the co-creator of Scavenger's Reign, described Kamen's influence on the Hollow as quote-unquote introducing human greed and gluttony into this animal kingdom. We're shown this over time as the Hollow gets bigger and more intimidating, no longer eating for sustenance but for power and dominance over everything around them. We see how Kamen's lack of balance shoves a wedge between him and Fiona, causing them to become estranged within the same ship. Ozzy warned him about the potential hazards within the ship, and Sam forcefully told him to f right off upon the suggestion of taking a far more dangerous route to their destination in an attempt to save his job at the cost of putting everyone's life in danger. His pride and insecurity couldn't handle the idea of being powerless, so he decided to redirect the ship anyways, putting them directly in the vicinity of a solar flare that severely damaged the Demeter, causing everyone to have to evacuate, leading to the loss of many innocent lives. Worst of all, he was so spineless in his attempt to escape that he ended up leaving Fiona behind on the doomed ship, leading to a lonely and painful death that she didn't deserve. Even then, instead of coming to terms with what he'd done, Kamen fully succumbs to his own misery, begging the Hollow to take his pain away, allowing it to fully absorb him, serving as a powerful depiction of wallowing in self-pity and unleashing an even more deluded Hollow upon anyone unfortunate to come across its path. I hate Kamen. He makes me sick. All he cares about is himself, and nothing, not even the safety of an entire crew, could make him think about anyone else. I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels this way. In my opinion, Kamen's ability to elicit such strong emotions of anger and disgust in a viewer shows just how well written his character truly is. Kamen. I struggled with the idea of just spilling everything about Scavenger's Reign, but I truly want you guys to experience it for yourselves, not just watch this video and call it a day. Not to mention the fact that this video is already long as shit, so there's that. I know I touched on a lot about the show, but would you believe me if I told you that this was really just the beginning? The journey to the Demeter had so many unexpected twists and turns and requires the survivors to surpass their limits right here, right now. Some of them had to make some really tough decisions, while others didn't have the strength to carry on with their own efforts. But for us who get to sit on our ass and watch the story unfold, this was a great time. The mystery behind the Demeter 227's destruction is slowly drip-fed to us over time, giving us something to look forward to with each passing episode. The story tactfully explores themes of adaptation and environmentalism without treating its audience like we're fucking 5 years old. Scavenger's Reign showed us just how creative a group of passionate and talented artists with a keen attention to detail can get when they aren't being overworked and pressured by way too much corporate oversight. We get to witness some stunning visuals and just enough world building to keep us engaged in such a captivating environment, capitalized by just a spoonful of what to look forward to in the second season if we're lucky enough to get it. For the love of God, watch the damn show. Make it clear to the people at Netflix that taking on Scavenger's Reign has the potential to be one of the best decisions they've ever made.